Hello, my name is Thibaut Jaberg and welcome to the final video in this series on the Wobbly Violin Project. As you can see, the violin is now finished and ready to play. And as this is the end of this project, I thought I would start with a little recap about this project. So yeah, the aim was to build a very quick and free violin which is asymmetrical and doesn't follow any mathematical rules or any like geometrical proportions in terms of the outline and things like the F-hole and the scrolls, etc. And yeah, then the idea was to hear whether we could hear any differences in the sound compared to a standard violin, and also to feel whether we could feel any differences when playing this wobbly violin. So yeah, the project took me 100 hours. This violin took me 100 hours to build. And those 100 hours were spread over 19 days. So it took me 19 days and 100 hours to build this violin. And yeah, my thoughts on the sound is, unsurprisingly, it sounds like a violin. I sort of expected it from the beginning that it was gonna sound like a violin, since at the end of the day, the differences compared to a standard violin are not that big. And yeah, I also showed this violin to a few other people, to some of the other students here in Brienz, as well as some of my teachers. I also showed it to two professional violinists. And yeah, they all thought that it sounded pretty good, that it was a good violin, and most importantly, nobody really thought that it sounded particularly differently to an other violin which might be built according to standard geometrical construction principles and so on. And yeah, so even though I'm not a professional violinist, or even not a very experienced violinist altogether, I'm still gonna play you a few notes. Yeah, basically mainly to prove that it works and that it produces sound. So yeah. So yeah, I assume the quality of the sound is not going to be particularly incredible, since I am recording this video with a phone. But yeah, my goal was just to prove that it is a functioning musical instrument. So yeah, my thoughts on the project, and perhaps what I would do differently if I was ever to do a project similar to that one again, is that I think, if anything, this violin is not wobbly enough. Like, you know, if you really sort of zoom out and look at this violin, you know, sort of look at the bigger picture, then yes, it is a asymmetrical and green violin, but it still is a violin. You know, it's got everything a violin needs to have. So it's got like a upper bout, a lower bout, and some C bouts, and they are sort of in fairly normal proportions to one another. So basically, like, it's obvious that it's gonna sound like a violin because, you know, yeah. But still, it does sort of prove my point, or perhaps not prove, because this is not a very scientific proof, but it does sort of back up my theory that, you know, the exact outline and whether the outline has been geometrically constructed or freely built by eye doesn't have such a big influence on the sound. In my opinion, what basically influences the sound are completely different things, like, for example, the archings and the thicknessings, and of course like loads of other things that set up the strings, and then obvious things like the bow and the player, etc. You know, these are all things that influence the sound way more than like tiny little details, and whether, you know, the C bouts are in some kind of like some kind of geometrical proportion and ratio to the upper bouts and the whole length of the instrument, and, you know, like small little, yeah, details like this, which, you know, small little details in the numbers of the measurements, in my opinion, they don't make a big difference in the sound of the finished instrument. But still, like, if I was to do something like this again, I would basically have to do the second version of the wobbly violin and call it the Wobbly Violin Extreme or something like this, and just make it even way more asymmetrical, because, yeah, with this level of asymmetrical, of, yeah, asymmetry, it was sort of to be expected that it was gonna sound like a normal violin. And yeah, about the varnish, the color of the varnish, of course, it's quite a striking color, but I sort of wanted to have a special varnish because it's a special project with those asymmetries and all that. So I wanted it to kind of be visible from very far away, and to be visible at the first glance that it's that something is special about this violin. Of course, I could have also done it the other way around and varnish it completely normally, and then you could like sort of hand this violin to anybody, and then you could like see how long it takes until they notice that something's wrong about this violin. But yeah, really I wanted it to be visible from far away, that this is a non-standard violin project, and that it's an experimental violin. And finally, I would like to talk about what I learned about this project. I think I really learned a huge amount through this project. First of all, I backed up my theory that asymmetrical and weirdly proportioned violins still sound like violins. And the other really cool thing is that I discovered that building violins quickly and freely can be very fun. I mean, I had loads of fun building this violin, so with that much speed, I really, yeah, discovered that this is something that suits me, to build violins quickly. And the other thing is that I feel like I gained a lot of confidence as a violin maker through this project, because I built it very quickly, and I did a lot of things by eye. I didn't measure many things, but still it turned out to be a functioning violin. And more than that, I actually often had to force myself to make things asymmetrical. I mean, the F holes, for example, I really kind of had to force myself to make them as weird as I could, and also the outline, like I had to force myself to make it asymmetrical. And yeah, this actually gave me a lot of confidence to like realize that I can build a violin very quickly without having to like be fussy about every little detail. And yeah, I know that I can just go for it and build a violin, and I now have the confidence to know that it will turn out well, even if I don't spend so much time on every little detail. So yeah, all in all, this has been a cool project. I really do not in the slightest regret having done this, even though that I spent over 100 hours, or basically, yeah, more or less precisely 100 hours on this project. And yeah, a lot of people, they sort of laughed a bit and thought like, what, you spend 100 hours on building a weird green violin? But yeah, I don't regret it at all. I find it has been a great learning process to build this. And yeah, I also found it really nice to take you people along with me through this project, through my new YouTube channel. And yeah, I'm sure that there will be a next project in the future, maybe just as crazy as this, maybe even more crazy, or maybe it's going to be a slightly more standard classical project. But yeah, we'll see. And I will hope to see you in the next video, in the next project. But until then, take care, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.